That's Richie Bradshaw of Locked On Sun Devils. Richie, they have made it clear in Tempe that in this era of the House settlement, where you can kind of just give football $20.5 million, and most schools are giving 75% of that to the gridiron, and then another 15% to basketball, and then another 5% to women's basketball specifically. Arizona State said, what if we gave, 35 scholarships for baseball? What if we invested in baseball and softball and what if we took millions of dollars that could go to football and gave them to Olympic sports or auxiliary non-revenue sports? Some would call it stupid. Some would call it crazy. What does Richie Bradshaw call it?
I say there's a reason that Arizona State is like the 50-year champion straight for number one in innovation, Drake Toll, because it is very much an unorthodox way to go about things. And honestly, it really caught me off guard the way that ASU handled this, because of the $20.5 million that every team is going to play with, you're allocating $2 million of that to all the scholarships that's going to baseball and softball. And that is going to look really weird to the rest of the country because people love college baseball, but it is not college football. It is not college basketball. Yeah. Those are your big money pools, right? And ASU football, when they're good, you got a lot of people in the Valley that want to go to those football games. When ASU basketball is good, it is what it is. That's why there's not as much money invested into it, but it doesn't mean that we're not willing to support it. When ASU baseball is good, it's an underrated love for the university because I don't want to say they're blue blood, but they're kind of not that far off. They've got several World Series. If you want to look at all the Hall of Famers that are in Major League Baseball, and that doesn't even include Barry Bonds, for what it's worth, ASU has a very good track record of baseball, which makes me believe that that's one of the things they really want to turn around. And they've had it's trending up-ish with where they're at right now, but I'm sure they're looking at this in a sense of like, hey, this was an identity for us. Why not try and get back to that?
So let's say that Kenny Dillingham walks in the room and says, Auburn just gave me an offer for $8 million a year to be their head coach, and they're going to give me the maximum amount of money that I can possibly grab from this House settlement and revenue sharing. Unless you do the same, I'm gone. Now, do I think he'd do that? No. Does he kind of have the right to do that as a Power 4 head coach that's going to be missing millions of dollars because it's going to a sport not his own? Unless you're just very generous and kind, you're now behind the punch of a Texas Tech, a BYU, a Baylor, a TCU, who've gone all in on football. And my question, if I'm Kenny Dillingham, to the entire athletic organization would be, what kind of money is baseball bringing in? And that's a hard answer because they're not. They're costing you money. Now, do they give Hall of Famers? Do they give you MLB exposure? Do they give you a possible College World Series appearance on ESPN, which is marketing? Yes. But I can get so much more in marketing by going to the college football playoff, which Dillingham just did.
Oh, no, I agree with you. And that's, again, one of the reasons why it kind of shocked me, especially because you're coming off an 11-win season. You're coming off of a conference championship season. You're coming off of a playoff appearance where you're one win away from taking down the SEC runner-up blue blood Texas Longhorns.
Yeah.
You would assume that you're going to throw of $20.5 million on like 12 million, 15 million at it. Like, go all in on that identity. And again, because college football is the college sport, that's where all your revenue is going to come from. And that's where a lot of your investments should be going towards. And here's the other thing is I do enjoy that ASU is looking at some of their previous successes with baseball, and they're not that far removed for it. They have had success since the turn of the century. It's not like we're talking about titles that came in the 80s kind of thing. But I also look at it and I go, who enjoys ASU baseball more? The older generations or the younger generations? Our generation, the new kids that are getting ready to go into college right now, Drake, there's not a lot of kids that are going to Arizona State University that are interested in watching the baseball team. And it's a shame. It really is. And I am a baseball fan. I know a lot of people don't really care for baseball because it's a slow game and this, that, and the other. But it's just an interesting choice to me that ASU is allocating a sizable chunk of their salary cap. You're talking about almost 5% of what you have going into baseball and softball. And again, there is history with both of those programs, not just the baseball. I know I've been talking about baseball. Softball has had a lot of success as well. But again, it's not your money drivers, which is really where this conversation is focused. Is like, I can sit here till I'm blue in the face and tell you like, oh yeah, it's awesome ASU baseball, but it's like, that's not really the point.
A piece of this to me is an optic. And the optic is, I'm a fan of Arizona State. I graduated there 10 years ago. Let's say I'm just making up a fake person. And the second we're bad in football, I want to know. I demand answers on why you're giving more money to baseball and softball. And that's kind of what you're asking for here. The second you're bad, even this isn't just an Arizona State thing either. This is part of what the House settlement is doing to everyone. Mike Gundy just lost $1 million off of his yearly salary because they need to cut corners somewhere. And instead of cutting, baseball or softball, Arizona State's not going to do that. Oklahoma State said, we're going to kind of cut football by taking our head coach and taking $1 million away from him to give it back to football. We're going to give it to the players, which is crazy. Are fans going to be cool with this in the long run?
I just don't know, because like I said, it's such a hard sell, because ASU baseball has been quality over the last 10 to 15 years. There's been some really crappy years and there's been some competitive years, but these kids go to Arizona State, these 16, 17, 18-year-old kids that aren't going to be in athletics. They're looking for the school. They're looking to stay home. They love the area. They're trying to get from the other side of the country and experience brand new life, whatever. There's a lot of stuff to draw these kids out here. There really is. Baseball is probably not at the top of that list, especially if you're not really interested in athletics. If you're going to Arizona State, not a sports fan, but you're going to go to the football games because of tailgating and all that stuff, baseball is probably the furthest thing from your mind compared to football, where you're still going to the games and like, oh, all of a sudden this team's really good. Maybe I should go to games more often. That's kind of the way that trickles in to help your revenue, is the people who may not be interested going to have a great time and then they enjoy it. That's a much harder sell for baseball. And again, like I said, I love baseball. The older generations who watched ASU baseball winning World Series titles and going to Omaha for deep runs, like, this younger generation hasn't experienced that. So there's a special place in the hearts for the previous generations, but these younger generations don't have that. And that's really where the focus should be right now, is for the younger generation that is going out a lot more than the older generations. It's just the way it is. Most of your older generations, and honestly, me included, I'm not in the older generation. I'd rather sit in an AC environment where my drinks are colder and cheaper than it is at a stadium. So interesting decision. You're going with a historical approach. I would love to see it. Drake, I see LSU winning the World Series 2 of the last 3 years. I get FOMO from that, but I can't speak on the behalf of other Sun Devil fans or even people who cover the team like I do.
Yeah. Coming up, the LDS faith. This is one that we don't talk about very often, but it is kind of becoming a pillar of the Big 12. This is a Locked On Big 12, Locked On Sun Devils crossover. Today's show is brought to you by Monarch Money. Why is it brought to you by Monarch Money? Because I'm 24 years old, and guess what I'm not very good at? Money. I go into my account and it's all gone. But with my own personal CFO giving me full visibility, my budgeting app Monarch Money is not just a place that I can go to learn about how to manage my money. It's a complete financial command center. You're not just managing money, you're building wealth. You can track all of your accounts, investments, and more with Monarch Money. The one surprising thing I noticed was how easy it is to track with a partner, a friend, with an accountability, anybody, with a parent, and make sure that I'm not spending as much on food delivery. And my financial goal for this year is to spend a lot less on food delivery. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com. Code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Monarch Money.